money.
Whose money is it? That's what I don't. I think that's the question.
I don't know.
This is Hayden, the 28-year-old CEO of Kelsier Ventures. He's just realizing the seriousness of controlling over $100 million in crypto that doesn't belong to him. This is the story of how one family, the Davises, went from a seemingly regular life in Barcelona to orchestrating and masterminding one of the biggest scams in crypto history, and how Hayden manipulated everyone that he came in contact with, from crypto influencers and business partners to the president of Argentina. Today, we're exploring Hayden's past and the decisions around the LIBRA memecoin launch, which cost thousands of people their hard-earned money. Stay tuned to the end, where we'll uncover some shocking information from private messages and whistleblowers, before we unpack a jaw-dropping twist: Hayden's claim that the $100 million of stolen crypto could be the only thing standing between him and the very people now threatening his life. Hayden Mark Davis is the 28-year-old CEO and co-founder of Kelsier Ventures, a family-run crypto investment firm that, on paper, seemed like any other consultancy in the industry. But behind the scenes, it was a ticking time bomb. And Hayden wasn't alone. His father, Thomas Davis, chaired Kelsier Ventures, a man with a criminal past, including identity forgery and ties to a pyramid scheme called LIMU. After serving time, Thomas fled to Barcelona with the family, supposedly to start fresh. Luckily for us, as Hayden and his younger brother Gideon got older, they documented their entrepreneurial adventures on a YouTube channel called The Barca Brothers. Hayden and Gideon would later launch a podcast called Young, Dumb and Woke, where in episode 9 they interviewed Dr. Tom, their father. They discuss, among other topics, their excitement for starting a family business, which later became Kelsier Ventures. And that is when a string of coercion, manipulation, and scams allowed Hayden and his associates at Kelsier Ventures to oversee the catastrophic LIBRA memecoin launch, alongside Argentinian President Milei, which incidentally kickstarted the decline of Hayden Davis.
I am indeed Javier Milei's advisor. I am working with him and his team on much bigger tokenization and really cool stuff in Argentina, and I absolutely back him.
Following the token price crash, Milei would later delete his post and attempt to distance himself from both Hayden and Kelsier Ventures. Similarly, Kelsier Ventures team members began deleting their social media accounts, and it seemed the world had turned on Hayden. So, looking back, if we are to really understand who Hayden Davis is and unravel the mystery of how Kelsier Ventures gained access to the Argentine president, or even came to control over 1,000 crypto wallets worth $300 million, we need to review the events that led to the LIBRA scandal. First off, what is LIBRA and when did the story begin? It started on Valentine's Day 2025. Argentine President Javier Milei tweeted his support for LIBRA, calling it a project to fund small Argentine businesses. The market went wild, and LIBRA reached a $4.5 billion market cap in under an hour. But within 45 minutes, the dream was dead. The token plummeted by 90%, leaving 74,000 traders wrecked and $286 million lost. Those responsible were Hayden Davis and the Kelsier Ventures team. Wallets associated with Hayden showed that he sniped the launch, a tactic that allowed insiders with early access to buy $500,000 worth of LIBRA within minutes of the project's launch. They later sold this position for $3.1 million. But $3 million was just the appetizer. The main course would be the tens of millions of dollars waiting to be extracted from liquidity pools. So how did Hayden go from an eager, entrepreneurial 19-year-old boy in Barcelona to an international scammer with his very own prediction market around the likelihood of him facing prison? The answer requires a broader investigation of Hayden's past. Because LIBRA wasn't Hayden's first rodeo, it was later discovered that he had in fact used the same tactics on Melania, Enron, Hood, and M3M3, sniping tokens, draining liquidity, and extracting unfairly. But before we get to these other high-profile memecoin scams, including the First Lady of the United States, let's quickly establish how far Hayden's manipulation of Milei and his advisors went. Because across these schemes, Kelsier Ventures has raked in, at the very least, $116 million in profit. They did so by providing liquidity, then removing liquidity, and claiming fees. And who suffered? It was, of course, once again, everyday retail traders. 74,000 investors whose biggest mistake turned out to be trusting the president of Argentina, 25 of whom lost over $1 million each on LIBRA alone. As one would expect, the fallout of Hayden Davis and Javier Milei's memecoin catastrophe was picked up by political opponents of the Argentinian president. Calls for impeachment, calls for criminal investigations, and calls for resignation echoed throughout Argentina and the mainstream media. The mayor of Buenos Aires called the LIBRA launch a pyramid scheme, asserting that in no uncertain terms, Javier Milei was both part and promoter of a multi-million-dollar scam. But perhaps more importantly, the mayor also highlighted an interesting parallel between Milei and Hayden Davis, because the LIBRA launch, which cost countless Argentinians their hard-earned money, was not Milei's first brush with cryptocurrency crime. As it turns out, long before Milei became the president of Argentina, he was implicated in a similar story. In 2021, he recommended a crypto platform called CoinX that promised to leverage automated trading algorithms to provide high returns of up to 8% per month. CoinX would later end up being reported for fraud, leading investors to sue Milei in 2022 for having promoted the fraudulent company on his Instagram. But it got worse. Hayden wasn't just targeting the retail traders and his so-called business partners. It turned out he was also manipulating world leaders. Beside the Argentina connection, rumors of a deal with Nigerian politicians started to spread. Less than a week into our coverage of the scandalous LIBRA memecoin launch and our investigation around Hayden Davis, these leaked messages revealed that Hayden had paid off President Milei's sister, Karina, to ensure Milei promoted LIBRA. If these texts are indeed verified as authentic, they would suggest that the president of Argentina and possibly other high-ranking politicians around the world could be bought and sold, just like a meme coin. But what about Hayden's family, the rest of the crew? Hayden's father, Thomas Davis, the criminal mastermind who many believe was the man behind the curtain. His brother, Gideon Davis, Kelsier's COO, also helped to orchestrate these launches. And then we have Sydney Jin, Gideon's fiancée, who was allegedly involved as well. She was often seen flying in private jets and living lavishly in Dubai until, of course, she scrubbed her socials when things went south. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. For Hayden, it appears generational trauma played a significant role in his transformation from a happy 19-year-old entrepreneur living in Europe to the 28-year-old CEO with a $100 million problem. Trauma which started generations before Hayden or his father ever became criminals. Because in contrast to Hayden and his brother Gideon's expat lifestyle in Barcelona, both parents have a more dramatic origin story, involving a Mormon cult, an absent biological father, an abusive stepfather, and suicide attempts at 18.
And I was so miserable that I decided I was going to commit suicide. And so that started with working at this company that was a little shady, but I was making a ton of money at 17 years old. And we started doing things we should have never done, like counterfeiting traveler's checks and assuming identities and being somebody we weren't. And we could create money out of thin air. I was drinking so much I didn't remember what happened the night before. My drug use was getting terrible. I had gotten so despondent, so depressed, so discouraged from my lifestyle.
Here's Hayden's brother Gideon talking about his family's heritage.
My great whatever grandfather was the third convert of Joseph Smith. So it come from like a really cult background. My great grandfather was an actual murderous cult leader. My grandfather died for leaving that cult. And so my mom was orphaned. My dad, he had an abusive stepfather, just had a very, very hard life growing up as well. And then he went to Bible school, found God, and completely flipped his life around.
But in reality, Tom Davis had found much more than God, because Tom was also involved in Limu, a multi-level marketing company which turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. This report, submitted to the Federal Trade Commission by Dr. John Taylor, outlines the shady reality behind Ponzi's like Limu, in which 99% of downline participants lose money. And as you're about to hear, Hayden was learning all about these extractive industries alongside his father for over a decade before the LIBRA scandal.
My 17-year-old son, Hayden, who I used to struggle to see because I traveled so much, is now a promoter with Lingy. We get to do this together.
And as on-chain data later revealed, the same wallets that were used to buy $5 million of LIBRA tokens were also connected to the entity that sniped $1 million of Trump soon after its launch. Hayden or his associates had been reusing the same tactics in multiple meme coin launches, and they were walking away with millions. And that brings us to the final and possibly most important question we need answered to truly understand who Hayden Davis is. Where is the money? In private messages obtained by Solana Floor, Hayden and his brother Gideon are seen instructing others to anonymously sell 1% of the supply to avoid the funds being traced back to them. The very same whistleblower estimated that Hayden and his team could have made up to $200 million from the various meme coin launches that they were collectively involved in. Archam's analysis showed that Hayden's wallets still hold over $10 million, with $4 million sitting in USDC and another $4 million in a meme coin called Brian. But that's just a fraction of the funds in question, because over 1,000 wallets were linked to Kelsier Ventures, which collectively control close to $300 million in potentially stolen funds.
The money.
Whose money is it?
I don't know.
So, what's next for Hayden? Hayden and his father Tom Davis were both involved in the Ponzi scheme Limu. President Milei has been in trouble for promoting scam projects in the past. Hayden has even admitted to sniping tokens, and his involvement in many dubious launches are becoming clearer by the day. So why is Hayden still free? Why hasn't anyone been held accountable? It turns out in crypto, crime might actually pay. Hayden claims that the $100 million he now controls is his only leverage protecting him from the very people threatening his life.
Were you part of the Melania launch, and was that sniped as well?
I'll answer. I was part of it. I think the team did want to snipe it because of how big the snipe was on Trump's.
A man who conned tens of thousands out of their savings, manipulated global markets, and coerced presidential staffers, now playing the victim. And the worst part, he might even get away with it. The crypto industry has certainly survived its fair share of scams, hacks, and exploits. From Sam Bankman-Fried and his cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsing, to celebrities like Caitlyn Jenner and the Hawk Tour girl launching meme coins to the detriment of their followers. But never have we seen wealth transfers quite to the same extent as we have since Donald Trump's re-election as the 47th President of the United States, after which the Trump, Melania, Central African Republic, and LIBRA meme coins were launched, each causing millions of dollars of losses to retail investors who trusted popular figures and paid the price. So what do you think will happen next to Hayden Davis? Will he ever go to jail? Will law enforcement agencies or the threats against his life be the first to catch up with him? Drop a comment below and let us know as the case unfolds.